Hi, my name is Rose Spinelli, and in this workshop, we're going to talk about how to create and manage your crowdfunding campaign for success. Developing a crowdfunding strategy is the brains of your operation, and it should be done well in advance of launching your campaign. A crowdfunding strategy should take a multi-pronged approach. So many of the pieces are given their own focus in other workshops. But there's still much pre-launch strategy to be done, so let's begin. Get organized. So much of crowdfunding has to do with social media best practices, but for your overall campaign to run smoothly, you're going to need to be organized. So run your campaign like a well-oiled machine. Today's news cycle is 24/7, so your campaign should be too. Using a spreadsheet, create a schedule for all the daily tasks and correspondences and who's responsible for completing them. If you prefer to go digital, I provided links to some great productivity tools and apps with social components so your whole team can stay engaged. Now, based on your own campaign, this may differ, but generally, to keep it visible and active, you should be blogging, sending email pitches and updates, press releases, and I'll discuss those in the press workshop, visuals, both video and stills, and perk updates. We'll go into this in detail in just a bit. Your team. Crowdfunding is a team sport. So who's going to do all this work? Well, there's a reason why it's called crowdfunding. Form a team and define roles. These are not figurehead positions, so don't be afraid to ask for firm commitments from your team members. And you should expect boots on the ground involvement. It's better to have one person who's all in than 10 who don't follow through. The roles I'm about to describe can be mixed and matched according to time, budget, and talent pool, but here's a comprehensive list of suggested roles. Project manager. This will probably be you, the creator and the person who's the most invested and has an overall sense of the campaign in a very intimate way. Social media coordinator. We discuss social media strategy in great detail in its own workshop because it's the crank that turns the wheel of all crowdfunding efforts. So, though everyone should be using their own social media networks to get the word out, there should be someone who follows closely the campaign's branded social media feeds. Communications point person. Now, this is the person or people who oversee, communicate, and update donors and manage feedback. They might also write the blog posts, respond to inquiries on social media channels, or on your project page's comment section. Now, this is the voice of your campaign in many respects, so it's important that the tone is consistent and mirrors the campaign messaging. Depending on your team, if you have the luxury of delegating this role to one person, you definitely should. Determine your funding goal. All right, aim low. It's really best to aim as low as you can. If your project ultimately has many steps, just ask for what you need to begin. For example, consider raising funds for a convection oven, not an entire bakery operation. Or if you're making a film, ask for pre-production costs only. Unless you already have an enormous following or fan base, it'll be much easier to break it down that way. And crowdfunding was actually never really intended to be a one-stop solution to your funding needs. So be reasonable and assess your own limitations. And don't forget, if people like your project, there's a lot of evidence that they'll continue to give even after you've reached your goal. Stretch goals, a good idea or not. If you do reach your campaign goal quickly, you can consider creating stretch goals. Now, stretch goals are financial targets beyond your funding goal. Many people have used them to really great success when they reach their funding goal sooner than they expected. In order to encourage folks to keep contributing, people create further milestones. It could be anything. For example, increasing a product run or paying for a film's post-production cost if that wasn't included in the original goal. But make sure to check out other points of view on the topic of stretch goals. I've included 2 differing views in the resources. They'll give you food for thought, should you be lucky enough to have an overfunded problem. Psychology of asking for too much. Well, unless you've already secured 30% of your funding before you even launch, Choosing a goal that's too high can have a negative psychological impact on potential donors. For some, it feels out of reach, and so they won't even bother giving. Others might even consider that the dollar amount is a sign of greed. So remember, backers expect you to have some skin in the game yourself. So if your goal is large, you should be able to demonstrate that you've used some of your own funds or that you plan to before turning to the crowd for help. Calculate gross versus net costs. Think of your funding goal as you would your salary. You may make $50K a year, but that's not the sum you go home with after taxes. So make sure you budget the cost of the perks, platform fees, and the cost per unit for perks. Don't forget to figure out postage and packaging materials because shipping outside of your country of origin can be very expensive and every country has different rules. It's permissible and even customary to ask long-distance donors to add postage costs to their contribution. So make sure to figure that rate out in advance and list it clearly in your perks section because donors don't like to be surprised either. Also, if you can swing it and you've found professionals or interns you can trust, outsourcing some of those labor-intensive roles can remove some of your work. Perks. Perks are always important and should be taken seriously, but remember to have fun creating them. They should inspire something, such as a sense of community. If your project promises to improve a shared problem or somehow correct a social injustice. A feeling of excitement if your project is pioneering a great product or concept. A unique experience if you have a fun gadget that will make life easier or be a conversation piece. Perk to pledge cost ratio. Make sure perks are pledge level appropriate. Sure, donors are investing in your idea, so it's okay if you offer a perk that's slightly above market value, but asking for $100 for a t-shirt or a digital download of your film is usually considered out of line. Choose perks appropriate to your campaign. I encourage you to look at other campaigns for inspiration. There's nothing wrong with copying a perk that's worked, but don't make the mistake of using a perk that works well for one campaign but will fall flat for yours. Now, what do I mean by this? A mentoring Skype session with a director of a film works well if you're a well-known director, but probably not if you've just graduated from film school, right? Backers versus funders. The psychology of pledge levels. Think small. Crowdfunding is about raising small sums to reach your goal. So get in the habit of thinking in terms of number of backers versus dollar amounts. That means don't consider $1 and $5 donation levels to be unworthy of your time because it's absolutely not true. Here's a campaign example of a couple trying to adopt a baby. Their one and only donation level is set at $1. I love this idea. It may not work for every campaign, but this was a pretty great way to ask strangers to invest in a couple's personal dream to create a family. They didn't raise their maximum goal, but they did get 5,295 backers. And that's a lot of people who supported their cause and are now members of their community. Again, $25 is the most common pledge, and the average donation is $75. Also, 90% of donation pledges are under $100. According to Kickstarter, projects without a reward of $20 or less succeed only 28% of the time, while projects with a reward of $20 or less succeed 45% of the time. So in the light of that data, here's a metric to consider, though the actual numbers will be different for every campaign. Okay, so the most common perk level is $25, right? Let's say your funding goal is $25,000. Simply divide your pledge level by your funding goal. That figure will tell you how many backers you'll need at that level in order to reach your goal. In this example, you'll need to capture 1,000 pledges at the $25 level in order to reach your goal. Large contributions to reach your goal. If your campaign can offer some kind of exclusive perk to lure backers, you can also create a big ticket pledge. So using the same calculation with a funding goal of $25,000, you would need to get 10 backers at the $2,500 level to reach your goal. How many perks? Most experts agree that between 7 and 9 perks will provide a nice variety, and some platforms actually have perk limits. But be careful. Perk fulfillment can be overwhelming if you have too many, so make sure to calculate your perk fulfillment thoughtfully. And if you're manufacturing a product, your estimated arrival time date might turn out to be outside your control. But even if you feel you can be ready to ship perks immediately, make sure to give yourself some wiggle room between the time that your campaign closes and when the funds are actually dispersed to you. And if you're going to be late, be sure to keep your backers updated. Perk ideas. Here's a pretty exhaustive list of perk options, courtesy of the Crowdfunding Bible by Scott Steinberg. They'll get your imagination going. Okay, so the product itself, sometimes called a pre-sale, this would be the product sold for a limited time at a steep discount. Be sure to calculate any associated costs and figure them into your pricing structure and funding goal. Contributor credit. This is a public thank you within the product itself, like liner notes, a book, or game credits, or even at an event. Bundling rewards. Many successful campaigns use an all-of-the-above strategy, offering the rewards from lower tiers and then adding an extra on top of them. But be careful because this could be really labor-intensive. Early access to the product or service. This includes any kind of advanced entree for backers or for prototype testing. Personalized version of the product. These could include autographed or deluxe or director's cut and collector's editions. Limited edition version of the product. These perks put donors in an elite group. They can be any products or services that are earmarked on a first-come, limited basis, or a first-run perk, such as a product identified with a tag or a sticker that tells the world that these donors showed good taste or business sense by giving early. Merchandise and souvenirs. Besides books and autographed materials, you could offer posters, stickers, t-shirts, caps, and other commemorative items for the project. Behind-the-scenes photos, videos, and booklets. Now, these are items that show people concept work and other elements featured within the project, especially if there's a large visual component to it. Opportunities to affect the project's eventual outcome. Some film, book, music, TV, theater, and video game projects allow backers to actually suggest how the story develops, the contents included in the finished package, and featured subjects or locations and a means for backers involved in the creation. Making your backers part of the product. Several creative projects allow backers to be a character within the film, narrative, soundtrack, or action itself. Exclusive access. This is a chance to meet people who are part of the creative team behind various projects or related notables, such as the actors or the directors, musicians, or artists. Private parties, events, and occasions. Some projects offer special events as a reward to donors, usually at the highest pricing tiers. Now, these may include invitations to exclusive launch parties or private events held in a backer's honor or private concerts. Determining the length of your campaign. Now, longer running campaigns do not necessarily translate into higher raises. Many platforms allow you to run campaigns for up to 90 days, but should you take advantage of that? Running a campaign for too long puts you at risk of having your followers lose interest or just growing tired of hearing from you over that long haul. So I recommend the norm, which is 30 to 45 days. Determining your target audience. So we have first tier, friends and family. A lot of us have been preaching that you must secure your first round of financial support from your friends and family. Here's some data to back up the assertion. It's by Seedrs, a UK-based equity platform, and it confirms in stark mathematical terms that you absolutely must mobilize your inner circle to contribute if you expect to succeed. Now notice on this graph how starting from 0 funded, you have only a 15% chance of making it. Hit 10% and your chances increase to 70%. And campaigns that raised from 30 to 35% improved their success rate by 90 to 100%. Wow. So, plan to spend much of your pre-launch time devoted to getting the support from your inner circle. This could be face-to-face requests, individualized emails, or even a highly segmented group email. But don't omit this step because it's absolutely crucial. Second tier, your email network. You should have a strong email network before you begin your campaign. And forget about those marketers who'd have you believe that email is dead. It's not. In crowdfunding, it's a key component. One way to identify the influence in your email network is by using Klout, which measures online influence. I talk more about it and other tools in the press workshop. Third tier, strangers you don't yet know. What will it take for everyone else to want to jump in and give? Besides seeing the buzz already surrounding your campaign, you'll need an audience that shares your worldview. Targeting multiple audiences. People can often claim multiple audiences for their crowdfunding project. This expands your reach and is a great benefit. So spend time brainstorming what audiences might be interested in your project. Here's an example of a campaign that has multiple audiences and was fully funded. An entrepreneurial dad of a boy with cerebral palsy launched Neonzy because he was bothered that his son was forced to wear a bib. He sought to raise funds to manufacture and bring to market a line of t-shirts that were double layered. It pays to mention that the project creator spent a year in pre-launch planning. He took his time, covered all his bases, and was rewarded. So let's look at his target audiences. Families of people with disabilities. The first obvious audience is other families with disabilities who've shared concerns and needs. The Jewish community. Then, since the project creator has an office in Israel and another in the US where he lives with his family, he was able to reach out and get much support from his extensive community because they share strong values. Environmentalists. The t-shirt is made of bamboo and has been tested and certified to be free of harmful substances. So those who want clothing that's environmentally safe are a good bet. Fashion friendly. A professional designer made this t-shirt, so he'll likely tap his own community. Also, the embroidered bamboo logo is a perfect twofer because it'll appeal for aesthetic reasons and with values in mind. And finally, Kickstarter enthusiasts. As though there weren't plenty of audiences to tap already, I thought this was a perfect touch. One of the perks created for those who donated early was a limited edition t-shirt with a Kickstarter first run tag attached. This is not only a great idea for an exclusive perk, but the Kickstarter fan base is large and very, very loyal. And those people will pay to wear this tag literally on their sleeve. Congratulations, your campaign is live. All right, so daily management. Let's fast forward to the time your campaign is up and running, the management part of the campaign cycle. I won't say it gets easier in this phase, but it does get different. And this is definitely where all your hard pre-launch work will be rewarded because you'll have all the systems in place to stay on top of the fast-paced developments. Momentum is the name of the game now, so make sure to highlight any new achievement or event related to your campaign. Here are some tips to keep your audience engaged so they'll continue to use their social influence to help you get more backers, and of course to convert browsers into backers. Project updates. Provide any new information about new perks, live events, and celebrity support, anything that'll give your backers a renewed excitement for their involvement. Media attention. Toot your horn. When someone writes about you, post it prominently on your homepage with a logo if they have one. Media play begets more media play. Images. These could include photos from a live event you hosted or behind the scenes stills while you're shooting your film or a newly added perk. Just about anything will do. We love to look at photos. Milestones. Celebrate and share your excitement as your campaign contributions roll in, such as we're 1/3 of the way there. It'll make new people more inclined to pull out their wallets. Feedback. Are you at some crossroads? Do you need to make a decision of some sort? For example, say you're considering offering your product in a different color, and then you'll give it as a perk. Ask for feedback from your audience and backers. The crowd loves to share their opinion. It makes them feel more invested in you and your project, and it's great market testing for you as well. So let's talk about the life cycle of your campaign. Most campaigns have a natural dip in the middle that looks something like this. People will get excited at the beginning of the campaign and they'll donate. Then there'll also be the flurry at the end to donate right before the campaign closes. But people tend to lose momentum in the middle, so don't panic. Things will pick up as long as you continue your momentum and communication, and as long as you stay creative. Here's one way to do that. Limited perks. Again, as we mentioned, introducing limited perks mid-campaign is a very creative way to fan excitement if you're in a slump, and to promote a feeling of exclusivity and urgency. Make sure to look at campaigns for how they use them too. Here's an example of what one looks like from a very popular project. Reward fulfillment. The moment to make good on your promise to reward your backers has finally arrived. Now, don't get frazzled by the quantity and volume. Just take it one step at a time. All platforms are different, but they should all have helpful tools to make the fulfillment process a little bit more seamless. So you might want to consider the quality of these tools when you're choosing a platform. Kickstarter, for example, provides a survey tool at your campaign's completion. It will help you create surveys for your backers requesting information like mailing addresses or apparel sizing. Now look for the feature in your backer report. Indiegogo, on the other hand, collects the information and stores it in the Fulfillment tab of your dashboard under Manage Your Campaign. If you go with another platform, make sure to check their fulfillment process before you commit to them. Keep communicating. The process of perks fulfillment can take a while, so remember to keep communicating, especially if you run into any bumps in the road. So how do you keep from getting stale, monotonous, or even annoying in your updates? Make them fun. Keep a photo record of your progress. You can take photos of you and your team knee-deep in packaging materials. It's both earnest and a humble gesture, and probably hysterical to look at too. Keep backers alert to problems. If you're manufacturing a product and have run into a glitch, always talk openly about the issues you've encountered, not for the sake of complaining, but to remove any questions your backers may have. Ask for advice. Who knows? They may just write you with some terrific feedback or a suggestion that'll help you get those rewards out to your loyal backers faster. It's crowdsourcing at its best. Okay, that winds up your crowdfunding workshop series. I wish you great success in organizing and executing your crowdfunding campaign. Remember to check out the many resources I've provided to make your sailing just a little bit smoother. And definitely remember to have fun and have gratitude, and you'll watch your profits soar and your dreams come true.